She trashed my tires with steel spikes, but my dash cam sent her to court. Some people talk about friendly neighborhoods, where kids sell lemonade, dogs stay in their yards, and folks wave when they drive by. This ain't that. This is Bramble Oak Estates, where everything looks peaceful on the outside, but beneath the surface, it's a power struggle wrapped in recycled newsletter paper and fake HOA rules. And for the last 6 months, I've been the target of its self-appointed queen. Her name's Karen McGreevy, and last month, she nearly got someone killed. My name's Marcus. I bought my house at the edge of Bramble Oak a year ago, corner lot, fixer-upper, just enough land for my tools, trailer, and space to breathe. I run a mobile detailing business, built it from scratch after retiring from the Air Force. I wash, buff, and polish everything from garbage trucks to classic Mustangs. My trailer is custom, my work ethic military standard, no shortcuts. But to Karen, I'm an unauthorized business presence, a code violation, a threat. It started small, snide comments when I parked my work trailer out front for more than 30 minutes. Notes taped to my door. This neighborhood has rules. The occasional concerned citizen staring from behind tinted SUV glass when I rolled in late from a job. But I ignored it. Thought maybe she'd find a new target. That's where I messed up. Because Karen, she doesn't let go. Then one morning, I walked out to find all 4 tires on my truck slashed. Not a slow leak slashed. My trailer cable had been cut too, and someone had shoved a printed warning sign under my windshield. This property is under surveillance. Repeat infractions will be reported to HOA compliance. Except we don't have a real HOA. That's when I started paying attention. I asked my neighbor, Tom, who's been here 15 years. He shook his head. HOA disbanded after the recession, he said, but Karen never got the memo. Turns out she created a fake enforcement council, the Bramble Oak Compliance Committee. Just her, a printer, and a Facebook group she moderated like a dictator. She fined people, towed their cars, even threatened to evict a single mom down the block for overgrown hedges. And me, I was public enemy number 1. So I installed cameras. Nothing fancy, just a dash cam rigged to motion detection and a floodlight tied to a battery pack. Hidden just right behind my garage trellis. I didn't expect much, but 4 nights later I got the footage. There she was, Karen McGreevy, out at 2:17 a.m., creeping up the driveway with a bag in hand, wearing a hoodie and gloves. She knelt near my tires, reached into the bag, and pulled out metal road spikes. She arranged them in a half-moon pattern behind my rear wheels, angled up like fangs. She looked up once, straight into the floodlight's motion trigger, froze, then backed away. I downloaded the footage, uploaded it to a secure server, then I called the sheriff. When Deputy Ruiz saw the video, he whistled. "You know what that is, right?" he asked. "Vandalism." He shook his head, intent to cause harm. Tampering with a vehicle, could even hit attempted assault if you caught air and crashed. I stared at the spike I'd picked up that morning. It wasn't from a store. It was handmade, welded from scrap rebar with barbed edges. Someone went out of their way to make it dangerous. And now we had the proof. Karen denied everything. Said I faked the footage, claimed I was running an illegal business on residential land, and she was documenting repeat violations, even filed a complaint against me with the zoning board. But the sheriff wasn't buying it. When they showed up at her door with a warrant, she screamed, "I'm enforcing neighborhood law." They arrested her on the spot, and yet, that wasn't the end. Because what I found out next, Karen wasn't acting alone. And what she'd done to me, she'd done to at least 8 other families. Tuyat voi, duoi jai, la pantri tri hisen tu qua triendai, kinevers hisen tu. Tiep noi sau hi Marcus Hall, fat hien va vachtran, amu kwangchem, jajai tongqua, mot fake hoa do karendan, jauva kong ti patrien bat chong san jung sao. Trong fan nai, Marcus se joy jau truk tiep voi he, thong tai boi geotran, vamot ku twist lon se jau nguak toan, botatran. Title: Karen laid spikes on my driveway. Now she's facing jail time. narrated by Marcus Hall. There's something surreal about standing at a city council podium with a suit that still smells faintly like wax and tire polish. My good one, the one I keep for funerals, court, and now, apparently, neighborhood war. I wasn't there to play nice. I was there to bury the lies. City Hall was full that night. Overflow room, standing room, cameras flashing every few seconds. A swarm of reporters. Half of Bramble Oak had shown up, most of them, the same people Karen had fined, humiliated, or tried to run off. On the other side of the room, three sharply dressed lawyers from Bramble Oak Development and a man I hadn't seen before, older, gray beard, dark navy suit, hands clasped neatly, sitting in the shadows behind them. Didn't look like a lawyer. Didn't look like he wanted to be there either. I made a mental note. Then I stepped up to the mic. My name is Marcus Hall, Air Force veteran, small business owner, and a resident of Bramble Oak Estates before it became a battlefield. I took a breath. I'm here to present evidence that a development firm, through the use of a fraudulent homeowners association and coordinated harassment, attempted to systematically devalue and reclaim residential property by targeting families with fake code violations, sabotage, and fear. I handed the clerk a USB. On that drive, you'll find trail cam footage, emails from Bramble Oak Development, and a list of at least 12 targeted homes, mine included. Someone in the crowd yelled, "Tell him about the spikes." Marcus? I nodded. I nearly drove over a set of homemade steel caltrips laid on my driveway. That wasn't an accident. That was strategy. The council chair, Miss Alvarez, leaned forward. Mr. Hall, are you alleging that Bramble Oak Development committed criminal acts with the cooperation of a known HOA impersonator? I'm not alleging, I said. I'm proving it. And then I turned to the crowd. Ask your neighbors. Ask the woman who got fined for planting tomatoes. Ask the veteran they tried to evict over a flagpole. Ask the families that left, not because they couldn't pay their mortgage, but because they couldn't take the stress anymore. A pause, then scattered applause, then thunder. The floor was open for response. Bramble Oak's lead attorney stood, polished, confident, white hair, steel-framed glasses. Council members, he said, these accusations are inflammatory and unfounded. While we recognize Ms. McGreevy's actions were inappropriate, there is no documented corporate link to her enforcement behavior. She acted independently. I could feel my jaw clenching. Then the older man in the back stood up and changed everything. He introduced himself as Elias Dawson. I'm the former land acquisition strategist for Bramble Oak Development. He said. The room went quiet. I was terminated last month when I refused to continue pushing the covert compliance agenda. Gasps. He pulled out a folder. These are internal memos, campaign contributions, and planning documents showing intent to destabilize Bramble Oak Estates through resident attrition, weaponized compliance enforcement, and artificial documentation of code violations. He passed them to the clerk, including authorization signatures from Bramble Oak's executive director and zoning consultants. The attorney froze. He hadn't seen this coming. Elias looked straight at the council. I couldn't keep my mouth shut anymore. I have grandkids. I couldn't let them grow up in a world where corporations punish working people for having too much independence. Silence, then standing ovation. Even the city clerk stood up and clapped. The council recessed for an emergency review. They returned 20 minutes later and dropped the hammer. Zoning freeze extended indefinitely. Bramble's Oak Development under investigation. Council to recommend county-level civil action for fraud, trespass, and attempted coercion. And just like that, the system cracked. Karen, watching from a monitor in pretrial holding, reportedly broke down. Bramble's Oaks board issued a full press release blaming individual actors and promising a new direction. But the damage was done. They weren't in control anymore. I walked out of City Hall that night with my head high, neighbors patting me on the back. Someone handed me a Sharpie and said, "Sign my no fake HOAs shirt." I laughed. But deep down, I felt something deeper. Not pride, responsibility, because once you expose the rot, you don't get to walk away. You stay. You rebuild. I didn't move. Not when they tried to break me with noise. Not when they tried to trick me with paper. Not when they laid traps in the dark and thought no one was watching. And now, as I stood in front of a rebuilt mailbox with fresh paint and hand-carved letters that read, "No HA, just neighbors," I still hadn't moved. But everything else had. Karen pled out in the end. Avoided trial, 6 months probation, mandatory community service, restitution payments to 8 families, and a permanent injunction banning her from ever participating in any neighborhood organization again. Her name's been scrubbed from the fake Facebook group, her house sold. Some say she moved to Arizona. Others say she's trying to start a new community standards club out in Sunridge Canyon. Let them deal with her. We're done here. Bramble Oak Development dissolved its local operations 3 months after the council hearing, but the ghost of what they tried still lingers. The spike scars on my old tires, the patch on my driveway, the moments I flinched every time I saw a clipboard. You don't heal overnight when you've been hunted in your own home. But healing does come. Slow, quiet, steady. We started small. The garden Karen once tried to shut down. Now it's a full community plot with tomatoes, peppers, and herbs planted by half the block. Even Tom, who once said he had a black thumb, now waters basil twice a week. The RV Karen raged about still there. Only now. Ken and Shirley have turned it into a mobile tutoring lab for local teens. My mobile detailing trailer still parked in the driveway. I added new floodlights, but not out of fear, out of pride. And one Saturday morning, a little girl from down the street walked up with a plate of cookies. She said her dad used to say I was too loud, that I didn't belong. But now, her family waves every time I drive by. Daddy says you're the reason our neighborhood still exists. She said, I blinked. That one stuck with me. The city council passed a new ordinance 3 months later, HOA registration and oversight reform. Every HOA or committee must submit public bylaws, elect officers annually, have third-party transparency audits, provide opt-out options for legacy homeowners not under covenants. They called it Marcus's motion. I didn't ask for that name either, but I didn't argue, because now no one can weaponize community to erase the people who built it. Sometimes, I still think about that night, the spikes, the quiet crunch of gravel, the fake authority, the arrogance. It started with a drive-by glance at my trailer, and it ended with handcuffs and headlines, because I refused to shrink, because I had cameras, because I had neighbors. And when people ask how I didn't lose my mind, I tell them, it wasn't about rage, it was about roots. You mess with my peace, you're just noise, but you mess with my ground. You better be ready to meet what's buried there. Wide, low-angle shot at sunset. Marcus stands at the edge of his driveway, holding a wrench in one hand, a coffee mug in the other. Behind him, the mobile detailing trailer shines like chrome against a golden sky. Down the street, kids play basketball. Lawn chairs line a front yard barbecue. The old fake HOA sign once nailed to a lamppost. Now it's been repainted and flipped upside down. This neighborhood runs on truth. The camera pulls back, slowly, until Marcus is just a silhouette. One man, one driveway, one battle won. Some folks build fences, others build futures. But the ones who build futures on stolen ground, they always forget one thing. Truth doesn't just fight back, it remembers. Call to action. What would you do if someone like Karen claimed control over your street? Was she just a pawn or something worse? Share your thoughts below. Tag someone who's dealt with HOA abuse. Let's talk about power, property, and what real community should look like.